Hi everyone, welcome to the second episode of Book Club series. And today I have with me Arsh and Arpit, and we will be reading out Ernest Hemingway's A Day's Wait. So the story takes place over a course of a day, and it's narrated by a father about his son. And his son is gravely ill, and he has a fever, and he thinks he's going to die. So the entire story is about that. So I think I'll ask Arpit to start now.
Okay. So this is A Day's Wait by Ernest Hemingway. He came into the room to shut the windows while we were still in bed, and I saw he looked ill. He was shivering, his face was white, and he walked slowly as though it ached to move. What's the matter, Scats? I got headache. You better go back to bed. No, I'm all right. You go to bed, I'll see you when I'm dressed. But when I came downstairs, he was dressed, sitting by the fire, looking a very sick and miserable boy of 9 years. When I put my hand on his forehead, I knew he had a fever. You go up to bed, I said. You're sick. I'm all right, he said. When the doctor came, he took the boy's temperature. What is it? I asked him. Downstairs, the doctor left 3 different medicines in different colored capsules with instructions for giving them. One was to bring down the fever, another a purgative, the third to overcome an acid condition. The germs of influenza can only exist in an acid condition, he explained. He seemed to know all about influenza and said there was nothing to worry about if the fever did not go above 140 degrees. This was a light epidemic of flu, and there was no danger if you avoided pneumonia.
Back in the room, I wrote the boy's temperature down and made a note of the time to give the various capsules. Do you want me to read to you? All right, if you want to, said the boy. His face was very white and there were dark areas under his eyes. He lay still in bed and seemed very detached from what was going on. I read aloud from Howard Pyle's Book of Pirates, but I could see he was not following what I was reading. How do you feel, Scats? I asked him. Just the same so far, he said. I sat at the foot of the bed and read to myself while I waited for it to be time to give another capsule. It would have been natural for him to go to sleep, but when I looked up, he was looking at the foot of the bed, looking very strangely. Why don't you try to go to sleep? I'll wake you up for the medicine. I'd rather stay awake. After a while, he said to me, You don't have to stay here with me, Papa, if it bothers you. It doesn't bother me. No, I mean, you don't have to stay if it's going to bother you. I thought perhaps he was a little lightheaded, and after giving him the prescribed capsule at 11 o'clock, I went out for a while. It was a bright, cold day, the ground covered with a sleet that had frozen so that it seemed as if all the bare trees, the bushes, the cut brush, and all the grass and the bare ground had been varnished with ice. I took the young Irish setter for a little walk up the road and along a frozen creek, but it was difficult to stand or walk on the glassy surface, and the red dog slipped and slithered and fell twice, hard, once dropping my gun and having it slide over the ice.
We flushed a covey of quail under a high clay bank with overhanging brush and killed 2 as they went out of sight over the top of the bank. Some of the covey lit the trees, but most of them scattered into brush piles, and it was necessary to jump on the ice-coated mounds of brush several times before they would flush. Coming out while you were poised unsteadily on the icy, springy brush, they made difficult shooting and killed 2, missed 5, and started back, pleased to have found a covey close to the house and happy there were so many left to find on another day. At the house, they said the boy had refused to let anyone come into the room. You can't come in, he said. You mustn't get what I have. I went up to him and found him in exactly the position I had left him, white-faced, but with the tops of his cheeks flushed by the fever, staring still. As he had stared, at the foot of the bed, I took his temperature. What is it? Something like 100, I said. It was 102 and 4/10. It was 102, he said. Who said so? The doctor. Your temperature is all right, I said. It's nothing to worry about. I don't worry, he said, but I can't keep from thinking. Don't think, I said, just take it easy. I'm taking it easy, he said, and looked straight ahead. He was evidently holding tight onto himself about something. Take this with water. Do you think it will do any good? Of course it will. I sat down and opened the padded book and commenced to read. But I could see he was not following, so I stopped. About what time do you think I'm going to die? He asked. What? About how long will it be before I die? You aren't going to die. What's the matter with you? Oh, yes, I am. I heard him say 102. People don't die with a fever of 102. That's a silly way to talk. I know they do. At school in France, the boys told me you can't live with 44 degrees. I've got 102. He had been waiting to die all day, ever since 9 o'clock in the morning. You poor Shats, I said. Poor old Shats, it's like miles and kilometers. You aren't going to die. That's a different thermometer. On that thermometer, 37 is normal. On this kind, it's 98. Are you sure? Absolutely, I said. It's like miles and kilometers. You know, like how many kilometers we make when we do 70 in the car? Oh, he said, but his gaze at the foot of his bed relaxed slowly. The hold over himself relaxed too. Finally, and the next day, it was very slack, and he cried very easily at little things that were of no importance.
Interesting.
Nice.
I think this is the ideal length for our short stories also. This was short and sweet.
Yeah.
What's the interpretation and the meaning of it? Vaani, pehle to, as always, I would want to know from you.
Are you disappointed in the story or what?
No, I'm not disappointed. Like, I kind of liked it, but is it deeper than I think, or is it not?
Yeah,
Is it?
I mean, it's basically about how how some of our misconceptions are based on little misunderstandings. Like the boy, he confused the two scales, and he thought he was going to die. And so like so the entire story, you start with how serious the boy acts because he's under he thinks he's going to die because the fever is 104 degrees. And the entire day he acts like, I don't know, an 80-year-old or so. He doesn't act his age because he thinks he's going to die, all because of one misconception. Then towards the end, when his father actually breaks it down to him, that he tells him about the scales, like how 104 is different from a 44, Fahrenheit is different from Celsius. That's when he actually relaxes, and that's how, like, Hemingway puts it, like, the entire story, there's one thing that's constant. He's gazing at the foot of the bed. So initially he was looking at it like in a very, he was serious when he looked at it. And towards the end, his gaze relaxes. And that's the whole story, I think.
So I was following it till the point where they were having this conversation. But like the last para confused me like a lot. Like, oh, he said, but his gaze at the foot of his bed relaxed slowly. The hold over himself relaxed too, finally. And the next day it was very slack and he cried very easily at little things that were of no importance. So I got confused by the last line. Why would he cry at the things that were of no importance?
Because he was a kid again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
So
why? Yeah.
He's a 9-year-old child. He will actually have, I don't know, he will have his own, what do you call them?
Okay. So next time, next day it won't be like Celsius, Fahrenheit. It will be like something else that would, it would be like yards or feet, or maybe like something small that bugged him. It can be anything else also.
Yeah, because that day he's worried about dying. The next day he knows he's not going to die. That day he was thinking he's going to die.
Yeah.
So that's how he's dealing with it.
So, but like he still feels like crying the next day because he's a kid. Is there a deeper meaning to it also? Why would he cry the next day also?
Because that's
It
his general nature, I think.
Arpit?
Yeah, actually, if you think about, he did not cry the first day the entire time. Basically, the idea of that is he was being like very uptight and very stoic throughout the first day, and he was trying to not, show as if he was like too affected by this and he was too disappointed and he's just crying all the time. He was being very like uptight. But on the next day, when after he has found out that this is actually a Celsius and Fahrenheit situation, right? That's when he can just be himself again and cry over little things like I hurt my foot on the corner of the bed or something like that. Where versus the first day he did not cry at all because he thought he was going to die.
Was he disappointed that he did not die?
No, he was really.
He was relieved. He
I
was
think he was
relieved.
disappointed.
You think he was disappointed?
Yeah, because see, the boy, he's 9 and he just thought he's going to die with the sense of death,
Yeah.
because death is always something that's momentous, that's portrayed as momentous. So it took away a certain privilege from him when he understood that he wasn't
Yeah.
going to die, and that just takes
Yeah.
away his thunder in a way. So that's why I think he's a kind of.
That was my interpretation also. That is why I was asking them so many questions, because what they were saying, like मेरा कुछ और चल रहा था दिमाग में. I am like more towards like what you are saying कि हाँ. I think he was disappointed that he did not die, and like the last line जो है, he cried very easily at little things that were of no importance. So एक वो होता है ना, the way you want something and when you don't get it, तो बच्चे और ऐसे औखे हो जाते हैं कि नहीं यार, मतलब ये क्यों नहीं मिला मेरे को. So it was like his frustration, वो जो एक बच्चे का जो एक वो जो एक innocence वाली frustration होती है ना, I think it was that he has tried to convey in the last line, maybe. Like I always thought you were the one who liked those dark books and like the stories with like.
I'll tell you why. Because I do not look at it that way. Because if you go back to the story, the father notices that he's not listening to the narration, and then he just stops. And then he asks him about what time do you think I'm going to die? And then he explains the whole scenario to him about the difference. And then at the end, Hemingway writes that his gaze at the foot of his bed relaxed slowly. It became like less tense. So that's why I always thought that, he's relieved at the end. And him crying, because the 9-year-olds that I've met, like they throw a lot of tantrums. So I thought maybe this is just another 9-year-old throwing tantrums.
But like इसमें I think Arsh used the term privilege, right? मतलब मेरे को ऐसा लग रहा है कि जब आपकी लाइफ में कुछ बहुत important हो रहा होता है ना, which is like very much specific to you, कि कोई ऐसी चीज हो रही है, and like for a 9-year-old kid like चीजें normal होती हैं कि हाँ ये होगा, मैं सुबह स्कूल जाऊंगा फिर वापस आऊंगा. For the first time in his life something unique was happening to him, so he was trying to be in that moment and trying to understand everything about that particular thing. Okay, so when am I going to die? When is that going to happen? जो डेथ थी वो तो वो समझता ही नहीं था कि what death is, कि मतलब he did not understand that dying means dying, but he was amazed by the idea of an event happening to him that was exclusive to him. And when that event that was exclusive to him did not happen, when he realized कि oh, मेरे जो दिमाग में फंडामेंटल्स ही ले थे किसी पर्टिकुलर चीज के, देन वो जो भी उसका बचपन है वो वापस आ गया in terms of frustration and everything. So there was a privilege attached to that thing कि हाँ उसको बड़ा special feel हो रहा था. Even if death kind of made him feel special, it made him feel special.
But I think the
Harsh,
last line
yeah.
that you're talking
Very
about,
different interpretations.
the last line that you're talking about, the next it was very slack and he cried very easily at little things that were of no importance. It's more in the context of how the boy is viewed externally rather than his own uh, perspective. Because See, for the boy, he's a boy of 9. He doesn't know what things life entails. I mean, what else is going to be there in his life? What else comprises life? But then, as adults, we just see kids as very juvenile. We think that most of the things they say or do has no sense in it, no concrete sense in it. So that's why for the adults, it's at the other little things that were of more importance at which he started crying again. But for the child, everything that he cries for is a serious issue.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
there's a
yeah.
contrast there too. There's a contrast there too.
This is an important line. Yeah,
Hmm.
everything was a serious issue to him. Interesting. I like it. It's a choti si story where, like Arpit said, how everyone has different interpretations.
Yeah.
Then this
I
was
also
like a
like how they're playing with you as a reader, though.
yeah,
Like you're kind of reading the entire thing through the perspective of the father, right? And until you get to the end of it, and there's an element of like history as well involved here, because it's like living in 2020, we don't really have any idea how deadly a fever of 102 can be at the time. Like
yeah.
I honestly did not, right? So to me, it could very well have actually been a very deadly disease, but it's only when he said that it like nobody dies at 102 that when I realized that he's actually not going to die because of this thing. And so the whole release of tension was not just for the kid but also for the reader as well, if you read it at this time, even though I don't think Hemingway intended it to be like that, but I think it turned out to be like
And also, why do you guys think he chose
that.
the title "A Day's Wait"?
So I think that's because he woke up in the morning and that's when the process started. He thought he got a fever. The doctor came and checked him, declared it 102. And then it was not until the day ended that the father broke his misconception. So the entire day, he spent his day thinking that he is going to die.
Yeah, yeah, totally agree. Yeah,
I found it like really amusing because you are confused, like what is wrong with the boy, like Arpit said.
Yeah.
You think it's a deadly disease because the boy
yeah,
is behaving such like differently, and the father is just like he's going out shooting the birds. And then it's not until you read the line, about what time do you think I'm going to die, that you realize what the poor boy has been thinking the entire day.
yeah.
That's when the father realized, so this is why he was serious the entire day, because he thought he's going to die, all because he thought people cannot survive beyond 44 degrees, and he's been thinking he's at 102.
True, 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 true. Great, काफी मतलब great interpretations like जो भी हम सब किए हैं सब आधे like I think 40% of the things like we unanimously like agree on, like I think we all agree on why it is called a day's wait and why like certain things happen, but like because of the last para I think like all of us had like different interpretations. So but this was fun यार, and I think पहली बार हमने 4 जनों के साथ किया. Maybe we should add more people, maybe like we should have a lot of new people every time we do this, and we can also ask people to like come up with their particular preferences of like what they would like to read. And Arsh, Arpit, did you guys enjoy it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it
think
was
one of
good.
these days you should get some kids on the show. It would be really
Oh
fun.
nice,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is nice. But like, thank you for joining us, Arpit. Thank you for joining us. I hope you guys had fun.
Yeah.
Now I'll make you guys look awkward because I'm going to talk to the camera and like give the outro for this thing. So hope you guys had fun, and if you guys like the episode, like we can also include you in our next book club conversation, and you can contribute to us on Patreon or YouTube if you like our work. We'll see you guys next week with another short story, and keep safe, guys. Take care. Bye.
Okay. Bye.